Jason, what is your favorite gaming website? Like, where do you go to get news?
Okay, 2 primary places for gaming news. Both of them, you're going to groan. I'm already ready for it. Are YouTube channels.
Yes, I'm groaning.
Yeah.
How do you find anything? All you have to do is look at people with like frowny faces and thumbnails and figure out, oh, is this the one that talked about that thing? Like, how do you find anything in YouTube?
Well, news. You asked about news, and I essentially watch everything that 2 channels post.
Okay.
The first is the Linus Media Group Game Linked. So they do a Tech Linked, which is like tech news every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They have started a couple months ago. I think I may have talked about this on the show.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it.
A Game Linked every Tuesday, Thursday. So it's just like general gaming news. And I really like that because it's like they're small, like, I mean, the whole thing is always less than 10 minutes. And every Tuesday, Thursday. So it's kind of timely, but not like super timely. And then the other one, I talk about him all the time. Skill Up on YouTube is just fantastic. He does fantastic, really well thought out reviews of games, but he also does This Week in Gaming, which, by the way, is just exploding. It's huge. I mean, like he has grown that specific series so large in the last couple of years. It's been very impressive. But again, it's a really well thought out weekly gaming news show, and that it's like he tries to keep it under 30 minutes, but like it's typically between 30 and 45 minutes. But I'll watch that on like 1.5 times speed, like almost as a podcast. Like I'll put it on in the car and I'll just let the video play. Like you don't need to be watching. It's all just B-roll. Mm-hmm. But that's where I go. Those are my 2 places. And then maybe to answer your more specific question, if I want to dig deeper into something, I don't have any loyalty. I just search it on Google and see whatever comes up.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, my go-to is IGN because, I don't know, historical reasons or something. But I go to IGN.com and like look for things that I know are kind of gaming headlines. I don't do it very often. But for instance, we're going to talk a little bit later in the show about some stuff that's happening at BlizzCon. And while I probably should have gone to Wowhead, I went to IGN and the site was so slow because I'm assuming because of loading ads that I was just like, this is abysmal. Like I like their content. They're doing great, but there's just so much. It was so sluggish because it's like, oh, I got to load all this and load all that. And I'm just like, I might have to pay for like IGN Plus or whatever just to get rid of the ads.
That's a strategy. It's not about the ads. It's just about, the website being functional at all. Get you to pay for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I pay for Ars Technica still.
Well, I was going to ask I thought Ars Technica had a gaming section.
They do, except they don't really like post everything about games. They kind of get the big, like the major points. And I did actually go there first, but when I didn't see it kind of on their front page, I was like, all right, I got to go somewhere more specialized.
Yeah, see, I agree. In that case, I probably would have went to Wowhead or something like that. When there's Guild Wars news, I go to Guild Wars or the Guild Wars forum. When there's actually the subreddit is actually also I tend to go to the video game subreddits if I'm looking for something specific for that game.
I think my problem, or not problem, but my concern with going to Reddit or Wowhead is that the sheer volume of content is I don't care about most of it. And I was hoping for something that was a little bit more like, here are the top things that were announced from BlizzCon, which I found on the front page of IGN.
Yeah, you want like medium depth,
sure,
right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have gotten that out of, because actually the very, very first place I went was worldofwarcraft.com. And they had a thing about the one thing, like the most immediate news that's coming. And they kind of had a link of like, here's the BlizzCon link, but like I didn't feel like digging through their website. So my traversal was worldofwarcraft.com, then Ars Technica, then IGN. And I finally found what I wanted at IGN, but not before you had already looked it up and Googled it or something and found it. And I was like, this is frustrating that I couldn't find it on the dedicated places that I knew to go look for it.
I mean, listen, I'm a big proponent of paying for content, right? I think particularly well curated, good laid out, well thought out content, whether that be entertainment or news, right? Like Skill Up, I really like the way he organizes things, and I really like the way he presents things, and I really like the take he has on things. I'm a patron of his. Like I'm a proponent of paying for things that you enjoy. I love that you subscribe to Ars Technica. I wish I read Ars Technica more, and I would absolutely be a subscriber. If you use IGN, if that's like your go-to, their like yearly subscription is like $2.50 a month. I think that's worth it.
Yeah, I need to do it because we always use it for guides. Like if I'm playing something and like, you know, my wife's playing like alongside on the couch, like she's looking stuff up and she just kind of, you know, lives through the ads. But it would be nice if we could just like share a login to that and just not have ads to deal with.
I didn't realize that they have some like really interactive stuff for games too. Like I'm at their website now and they have like IGN.com/maps. And like for Assassin's Creed Mirage, they have an interactive like map of that game.
Yeah, and you can just like check stuff off as you do it. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, they have a lot of good things, and I really like their style or whatever. I listen to their podcasts occasionally, like when I'm looking for some filler podcasts. I am still kind of subscribed to my podcast player to Beyond, the PlayStation podcast, and Nintendo Voice Chat from them, and I'll occasionally duck in onto like, oh, let me go back and listen to what these people thought of, you know, Sony's E3 presentation or something, you know, and kind of go into some of that. I don't know. They're kind of my go-to. I did subscribe to them way back in the day. I was a member of IGN, whatever their paid thing was, for a year or two. And it was pretty cool. I mean, that was before Humble Bundle was really a thing, and they had some like games and stuff that they would give you, like the Humble, kind of like the Humble Trove is. And yeah, so I was a subscriber to IGN forever ago, and I'm kind of thinking about doing it again.
Yeah, I really distrust IGN reviews, and I think that's where my skepticism comes from. Anytime I see an IGN review, I immediately discredit it because it just doesn't feel, I don't know. I don't feel like it represents my taste well. But I'm now on their website, since you have kind of brought it up, and looking at like their news, and that seems much more appealing to me. I may try to somehow put this in my rotation. I assume they have an RSS feed, right? Like, of course they do, right? That's how things work still, maybe, hopefully.
I would expect so. I mean, the internet is not the same as it was, but I think they should. Although it's probably one that shows you 2 sentences at a time, and then you have to click into the full story with all the ads and junk.
I'm okay with that.
That's one of the reasons that I pay for Ars Technica, is because I barely ever go to their actual website. I just have their full text RSS feed in my RSS reader. So I just read all their articles in my RSS reader, and it's super fast. Anyway, this episode brought to you by IGN. It's in the game or something.
Subscribe to IGN Plus for just $2.49 a month, or build at $29.99 per year.
Oh, that's actually not terrible. Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 113.
I'd like to start this episode with a little bit of follow-up for some of the things that we spoke about last episode. One is the International has come and gone for Dota 2, and it was great. I don't know how much of it you watched, but I watched a bunch of it, and it was amazing.
I watched more than I thought I was going to, and it was quite good.
What kept you watching? Like, why were you watching more than you thought?
How close the games were.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's just the way it worked out this year, or if they're always that close. But I kind of tuned in as as a very long game was going on. Typically Dota's between 35 and 55 minutes per game. Is that generally correct?
That's probably the average. Yeah. Especially at the pro level, it's probably 27 to 50 minutes is probably what they get to. Okay.
And this game went 75 or 76 minutes. It was long. It was really long. And it was really close. Like, they were trading, and the kill count was like exactly equal, and the gold was equal. And I mean, it was really close. I don't recognize a whole lot of the heroes. I really don't. But just seeing the push and pull and watching that and kind of being invested a little bit, not so much for a specific team, but more just for the sport, right? Like, just watching a really good match happen between two really evenly matched teams was interesting, and I had fun.
Yeah, I don't follow any of the individual teams particularly. I mean, I started to kind of be interested in a few of them, especially the ones I've heard of. Like, Team Liquid is one that's been around forever that I was like, oh yeah, they have like the horse logo. That's cool. And then I also was interested in the North American team Nouns, just because they were from North America. And like, there's not actually that many North American Dota teams. Nouns got knocked out pretty early. They had like one good series and then they just got trounced. But for a minute, I was rooting for them. I was following all of the like games and all of the in between game stuff and all of the like the announcers and commentators and all that stuff. I really enjoyed just the showmanship and the production value of the whole thing. I thought it was really well done. Not just the games, but also like the in between stuff, which I'm sure you didn't care about as much. But I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of it. I didn't. Some of it was cool, like the trivia, and they had like questionnaires, and they were handing out cool something or other to audience members that got it right. Like you and I had a little bit of fun with that, where we would see those and try to answer them, and it was fine. It was good. It was good production, I guess, but I didn't really care for that so much. I didn't see any of the behind the scenes anything. I just didn't happen to be watching at any of those times.
I actually didn't see that this year either. I've seen it in the past, but I didn't see it this time. I'm sure they did it because they have all sorts of filler stuff that they do. But one of the cool things you just mentioned about the like the trivia that they did, it was like an over-under about the people that were at the event. So they had badges, kind of like a convention or whatever. They had, your ticket, you had a badge, and you could associate your badge with your Steam account, which of course associates it with your Dota account, basically. And so they would basically poll the audience and say like, ooh, what do you think that the average MMR is for everybody in this stadium right now? And obviously, it's a little bit plus or minus, based on, it's not like who's actually in the room, but it's who has tickets basically for the event. And so they'd be like, oh, is it, more or less than 3,500 or whatever? And then the poor schmuck that they were asking had to answer that question. And I don't remember if they got it right. But it was really cool that they just kind of would link that to it. And then also a couple times they like singled people out where they were like, we're talking to this person. And they would go up to this random fan person and they'd be like, do you know why we're talking to you? And they're like, no, I have no idea. They're like, well, you have bought, 15 Divine Rapiers in the past 2 weeks. Why? You're crazy. And like Divine Rapier is like an item that you get at the end of the game and it gives you a bunch of attack damage. But if you die, you drop it. And so it's like a really risky move. And so they were asking this guy, like, why is he such a mad lad to do this thing? And it was pretty cool where they just like did an interview with some random player that happened to be in the arena.
That's I never saw that. That's kind of creepy, but also very cool.
I mean, it's creepy, but like in a limited way. Like I think what happened, it's not like they like singled out this one person. It's like they emailed this person and said, meet us at this spot at this time, and then we'll interview you basically. So like they didn't like ambush them. They just, they had their permission.
Yeah, sure. But it's just one of those things where like, we know everything about your Dota play.
Yeah.
Come talk to us about it.
We're going to ask you embarrassing questions about how bad you are at this game. Good luck. There were like 100,000 people watching on Twitch, I think, at some point. Like there were a lot of people watching the event. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, it draws a large crowd. It draws a large international crowd too. So
well, true.
But you also like that 100,000 is not all encapsulating because you can watch in game as well.
Yeah, you can watch in game. You can watch on Twitch. You can watch on YouTube. I did both, like in different times based on where I was, because like my Apple TV, I had the YouTube app, and it was easy to find it on there as opposed to airplaying it from Twitch. Yeah, so it was multimodal, and that was cool. And they also do broadcasts in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Russian, I think. All of the different languages, and like there's different language streams with different commentators for each region, but for the same game.
Yeah, again, it's a really well produced show. I mean, it went well. I mean, the one thing I did notice is that it ran long or was delayed almost every day that I watched.
Yeah, they had those games planned for like one every 3 hours, but then it would take them almost 4 hours to do a series. And that was kind of weird. Or maybe it's every 2 hours and it took them 3.5 hours to do a series. whatever it was, they were going well into the night in Seattle and well into the night for us on the East Coast.
Yeah. I am happy with my decision not to go and not to spend the money, but I did enjoy watching it from home.
I am at peace with my decision not to go, but I think I would have enjoyed being there.
Maybe next time. Chris, last time we talked about racing and you said, "Oh, I love just the tire management and the and the pit stops and the really long races." And I said, "Well, why don't you go try F1 Manager?" And we said, "Yeah, okay, I'll look into that. You know, I don't know, maybe we have it on an old Humble Bundle or whatever." And I think 15 seconds after we stopped recording, you were like, "It's on Game Pass." And I was like, "It's the best deal in gaming."
Yep, it is. And it was on Game Pass, and I did install it, and I did play it a little bit. And I don't know, I realized I'm not really that much of a fan of F1. Which makes sense, because I've literally never watched an F1 race in my life. So I shouldn't be surprised.
Was the game as we expected, like a lot of management, or was there even more management on top of that where you were like, this is too much?
Oh my gosh, this game, the game is called F1 Manager 2023 or whatever, and that's all it is. It is F1 management. Straight up all the way, it makes it into your job. Like, it was so weird. They're like, here is, the calendar, and here is your email inbox, and you'll get an email from the parts coordinator guy about like shipments of parts or something. Not like shipments, but like, the research people have come up with a new airfoil that they want to try on the car. So like, they'll let you know when that's ready, and then you can direct them to install it and try it next weekend for the race. And like, in theory, that all sounds interesting, but to me anyway, it was too much logistics, like too much managing of things outside of the car part of it, right? When I said I like to do this
is like, I have a day job.
Yeah, I don't need this. Like, it was seriously like, you got an email from this person, and I was like, my stress level just increased 3 points. Like, why? And you don't have to like respond to them, but then it's also like you have a team, and so you have, I played as, I don't know, Mercedes or whatever, and so I think I had Lewis Hamilton and somebody else, Lewis Hamilton being the only person, F1 driver's name that I know at all. And so I had this team, and I went to like the roster manager or whatever, where you have a driver and like a secondary driver and then a backup driver. And this thing is telling me, is like, the backup driver is feeling like he's, underappreciated and he doesn't have whatever. And I was like, I am not dealing with the social politics of imaginary people in this racing game. Like, this is not what I came here for. So that was kind of weird. Like, I wasn't there to do career development for avatars. Like, that wasn't what I was looking for when I was talking about this last time.
Career development. I love that.
So I did play, enough to actually get there to the race thing. I played, what was it, like the qualifiers or something? And so what you had to do is like they followed the real rules. They followed the rules that they get in actual F1, which again, if I was a bigger F1 fan and I kind of knew how this stuff worked, I probably would have thought this was the coolest thing ever. But I was just looking for something where I could like tell the driver person to like come into the pit stop and do this other stuff. And I did find that was there, but it was all like, oh, you get 15 minutes and you have these two drivers and they each have a car, and like you can tell them to go run a lap and like, try stuff out, and then they'll tell you how comfortable they are with the course, which is like, okay, that's kind of neat. And then like you can try to like install a different, set of tires or something, and like you have to install a different set of tires, which I didn't really follow the rules about that. Something about like you have to use different tire compounds and try them, and then part of the rules is you have to send them back to the Pirelli factory or whatever. It was all very, very into it, and I just wasn't that into it. So I think it is a very faithful simulation and recreation of what it's like to be the manager of an F1 team. And I realized that is a career choice that I am not going to make in my life.
Is the game still installed, Chris?
I think it might be just because I just haven't clicked the button, but I do not intend to go back to it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It'll be the first thing to go.
You're just going to have to do your long haul races in Forza and Gran Turismo, I guess.
Yep. Or just not at all. Or, start watching F1 on TV and
There you go. You know what I've heard, and this is actually good podcast material. I have heard that the F1 like Netflix show is actually a great place to start if you are not currently an F1 fan.
I have heard that as well. Drive to Survive is the name of the show.
Yes.
A couple of the podcasters that I listen to are very into F1 because they watched the show and then they got into it. And I don't know. It sounds kind of cool. I might give it a shot.
My brother is exactly the same way. He watched the show and like learned the I don't know, politics, the ins and outs of it, the complexities of it, and now is an F1 fan. Chris is writing it down. He's going to put it on his list.
Yeah, well, that would require me to get Netflix, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that. So, Jason, you've been playing any new games lately?
Yeah, I've basically decided that I only care about one game at a time. I am not a multitasker, and in that, I tend to fixate on one game until I no longer am having fun with it. And it's some people call it the season 2 weeks. That's fine. I'll take it.
I think you call it the season 2 weeks.
I mean, yes, I also call it the season 2 weeks. But that's, I mean, it's about 2 weeks until I kind of get over a game. But we are currently in the season 2 weeks, and I am very much enjoying playing Endless Dungeon.
Yes, me too. And I'm sad that it will probably only last 2 weeks because I think it is a fun game, and it would be a really fun game to try every once in a while, except that we just don't do every once in a while. And that's sad to me.
No, we're really bad at every once in a while.
Yes. So anyway, we've been playing Endless Dungeon, and it's been very fun. We've been playing it exclusively in the co-op mode. It is a twin stick dungeon crawling roguelite game, I'll call it. I don't know.
Yeah. I love that.
So the idea is it's a spiritual successor / almost direct sequel to the game called Dungeon of the Endless, which was a 2D top-down, I would say, like strategy roguelite game. And it was available on PC and also on like iPad and all that stuff. I have it on both. Very fun game. I played a lot of it. And I think we played it together a little bit and didn't like it as much. And then I played it some more by myself. And now the sequel is out, and we've been playing a ton of it and enjoying it.
Yeah. Quick question. Was Dungeon of the Endless, did it have roguelite elements? Like, did it have a metagame at all?
Barely. You would unlock characters, but other than that, it was basically just strictly roguelike, where every run was its own thing. Okay.
I was going to say, I didn't think it had very many, like, other than characters, I didn't think it had any progression.
Yeah, I think that's true. It had, like, unlocks, but I think, or, like, not unlocks, but, like, achievements, but I don't think it had, like, make your run easier next time kind of stuff.
Endless Dungeon is different. It does have progression, and I like the way they've done it. I think you mentioned it to someone that we were playing with. The currencies are not restrictive. The currencies flow pretty freely. You have plenty of currencies and like resources to upgrade and to buy new things and to, you know, whatever it is. You never feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what decision to make, because you're going to get enough the next run. Like it seems, I like the way that that's balanced, because it makes it feel less like stressful on like what decisions to make for your next run. So that's nice. But you can upgrade your heroes. I also love, oh man, you tell me what you think of this. I love the way they've done the hero progression, where you unlock them, and I honestly don't know how you unlock them. You do certain things to unlock certain ones, whatever. But once they're unlocked, they have a series of quests that you have to perform certain, quest objectives while in a run to essentially upgrade to unlock an upgrade slot on the hero. And then you use the currency to buy, different upgrades to slot in. But I love that, you unlock the hero, or, it's part of your kind of set that you can play as, but then you're going after certain objectives while playing around, in order to kind of progress that hero in a meta sense. And I really like that setup.
Yeah, it's a nice, like, you're not, it would be one thing if they said you have to unlock every power up individually by doing a quest. That would feel like a too long of a checklist. But this one, it's like, oh, you just kind of do these like 3 or 4 quests per hero and you unlock the slots, and then you can use the currency to buy the actual power-ups themselves, and you can switch them. You can change them however you want. You know, you can say, oh, I want to try this for a couple runs, and oh, that didn't work. I didn't like that. You know, I don't want to have to shove enemies because I want to be more ranged. So like take the shoving one off and put something else on. It is really flexible, and it feels really good when you're working through all of those hero quests and things.
I like that it gives a purpose to runs other than just get as far as you can. And I feel like it gives something else to focus on other than, well, you know, because like sometimes when you don't get further, it's like not your best run. It sometimes feels a little bad, right? Like, oh, I earned currency. Great. I guess I can upgrade a little bit. But I like that when I go in, at least, I always kind of have that objective in mind to say, okay, well, I'd like to get as far as we can, but like also this objective that for this hero, I'd like to get done. And like both of them I want to do, but I don't feel defeated, I guess, or I don't feel down if we don't make overall progress like further into the roguelike game. So that's really helped kind of balance some of the reasons I usually don't like roguelikes. Because I feel like once you kind of like, I feel a lot of times like I'll hit a wall and like we just won't get any further. And you and I did for like, I mean, a short period of time, a couple of runs, but we hit a wall, but it didn't feel bad because we were still making progress in other areas on other things that were objective based, not just like earn more currency.
I mean, I'll say that I think that we learned and took a different tack when I think we're talking about the same like one boss that's really hard. We got to the point where just like, okay, this is it. This is kind of do or die. Throw everything we have at this one boss, like build as much as you want, like spend all the resources because this is the spot. And we did that and we accomplished it. And I think that really paid off. And that to me is the thing that roguelikes really, and roguelites even, push you to do is like, okay, this isn't working, try a different strategy, and then it works. And that's what makes them so unique as a game style, I think.
Yeah, and I would say this game does it really well. Like you and I have come up with certain strategies that we generally follow. Like they're just kind of rule sets. I think it does 2 things for us in this game and maybe in roguelikes in general, but having kind of rule sets or strategies that you generally follow, particularly in a co-op roguelike, one, you know, hopefully leads you towards success because, you know, you're following a strategy and you can adapt and kind of figure it out and adjust it. But 2, it allows you and I to kind of be on the same wavelength and the game goes faster because we both like once we establish a strategy, we're just like, okay, we both know what the decision is here. We don't have to discuss it. Like, let's move on. And I really like that. And it's led to it's led to a really nice pacing in the game. Which sometimes we don't have in roguelikes. And we struggle with it with other things. Like, I mean, we've talked about it before on Baldur's Gate, right? The group is still kind of forming and still kind of trying to figure it out. We're still trying to determine how we're playing this co-op game together. The pacing is a little jerky, but you and I have really gotten into a rhythm with Endless Dungeon because our strategies are kind of in sync and it really makes for a well-paced game.
Yeah, well-paced is definitely the word for it. I will say that I believed in the beginning that this game pushed us a little too fast in terms of just the gameplay itself. But now that we kind of have a plan, it feels better. I think I still would prefer, I'll have to explain this, but I think I still would prefer the ability to be slightly more methodical if you want to. But I agree that we've got a good thing going and we kind of have a nice pace figured out. And we've also understood the risks, like in terms of, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to do this thing because I don't know what's going to be behind this door. I don't know what's going to happen. So I can't rush in there. But now I think we've kind of explored all of the potential risks in the most part. So we know kind of what's the worst thing that can happen if I push this button. And knowing that gives you confidence to be able to say, if a giant monster comes out of this thing, it won't be a giant monster. It'll be just a large monster. and I can handle a large monster, but I can't handle a giant monster. But that's okay, because I know that this is, the parameters of the game are such that this is how this goes. So that gives me, who is typically a much more cautious player, the kind of peace of mind to say, yeah, we can kind of do our own thing, sort of. Let's try to only do one thing at a time, but like we can trade off or whatever without having to like double check. Okay, you good? You good? You good? And like we can just kind of go, and I like that. I do.
Yeah.
The basic gameplay loop is that you are in this dungeon, I guess you call it, and you have rooms, and the rooms have doors, and every time you open a door, you get more resources, and then you can use those resources to do things like build little turrets, which will shoot at enemies. And so it's a combination of like a tower defense game and also like a dungeon exploration game, I guess. But as you get these resources, you can spend them to like upgrade yourself or upgrade your towers and all these things, which is really cool. And then every once in a while, there's a wave that gets triggered. And the wave is, enemies that are trying to get to your crystal, which is the kind of MacGuffin that you're trying to protect in this game. And I like all of that. And that's all pretty similar to the original game. The trick is that sometimes the waves are on a timer, and I do not like that, because in the original game, everything is event driven to the door opening. But in this one, it's just like, sometimes the thing is just like, oh, there's a hidden 45-second timer, and if you don't do something within that time, you're going to get a wave, and then you got to deal with it, which doesn't give you time to plan.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think as we get more experienced with the game, again, our strategies and what we do and where we go and the decision making, I think eventually we will be like, we don't care about those waves, right? Like yes, we have to deal with them. But right now, when we get to the point where the waves are coming too fast, it's because you and I have to discuss our strategy rather than just go with it, right? Like rather than just go with a strategy. And I think as we get more grounded, it will become easier and we will stop to notice like how fast those waves are coming. It has already happened, right? Like when we first started playing the game, a level took us like 50 minutes. And then the next level that we got to for the first time took us like 50 minutes. We're down like level 1. We're down to like 22 minutes. Like it is significantly faster. We have cut our time in half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that will continue to happen the more we experience, level 3 or level 4 or whatever one we're on. So I'm okay with it. It is a little fast. It's a little stressful, but I think that's what it's meant to be. And I think you don't like it because it does kind of interrupt things, but that's the intention. And I'm okay with it because we used to experience that interruption on the earlier levels when we were slower, and we will get, I can already see it. We will get faster.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm more okay with it now, but I still would prefer if there was a way to, more, I don't know, take control of the game. And there might be, because this is a rogue light game, so there are modifiers and things. So you unlock, when you beat bosses, you unlock like modifiers that you can use on a future run for like the entire run to say, oh, these rules of the game have changed. Enemies hit you twice as hard, but you move 5 times as fast or something. I don't know. I'm just making that up. But they come up with different modifiers for the game. So I'm hoping one of them is like, everything waits for you to open doors. And so I can try that and like see if I like it, because there's a chance that I'm asking for it and we would play it and I would hate it. So I would love to have the chance to try it and see if it is as better as I think it might be.
The thing I want to make sure we point out, and I think one of the, things that set this game apart, maybe, I don't know if there's other games out there, but you've mentioned it a couple times, but this is a twin stick shooter. So it's like it's a real time kind of shooting, third person kind of twin stick shooter game. But there's also a very prominent element of tower defense in it. Because as you're opening these doors in these procedurally generated dungeons, like you kind of have like defined paths, right? And you can determine whether, if I open this door, does it change the way that the monsters are going to come and where how everything's going to move? And if we change the way it's going to move, they're not going to go past these towers anymore, or we'll funnel them here in order to build it. I mean, there's a very prominent element of tower defense in this game. You and I are very big tower defense fans. And I think it's combining, my love for kind of twin stick shooters and kind of your love and our love for tower defense, and it does a really nice job of balancing them. You don't always have to build towers. You can kind of rely on your weapons and the actual like characters and the guns. And you can do that for as long or as short, and you kind of use, towers as a panic button. And we've done that a couple times. Or you can kind of decide like, oh no, we're really going to kind of cordon this area off. It's going to become a tower defense area, and we're going to mostly ignore it unless something happens. And like that kind of dynamic is very fun. It's been very interesting. That's the kind of strategy that I don't know that we've perfectly nailed down as like, being on the same wavelength perfectly. And I think that's probably one of the areas that will develop, particularly in the later game, because those decisions in the later part of the run start to become very important. Whereas in the early run, like, you can just take care of it, right? You just kill them with your weapons, like big deal. But later in the run, we're talking a lot of strategy. Where do we put towers? What towers do we put down? How do we funnel these things? What doors do we like? It starts to become very important. And I really, really like the flavor of tower defense in this game.
Yeah, as you're talking about that, I'm kind of thinking of other games like this that are kind of like hybrid-y tower defense kind of games. I think we played Orcs Must Die 2 like a long time ago. I don't know if we ever played Orcs Must Die 3, but like this makes me like wonder if once this game has kind of run its course, if there's an opportunity to try Orcs Must Die 3 if we have it from Humble something. I don't know if we do. But to try that kind of like co-op like gunplay tower defense game, because that game is like combination of like, I think it's a third person or maybe it's first person shooter and tower defense. So maybe something to think about.
Yeah, I think I've played it before. I liked that as well. And I think it was free to, was Orcs Must Die 2 free to play?
No, I think you're thinking of Dungeon Defenders, or not, whatever that game was.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I was also thinking of that one, which I think is similar to all of this. But yeah, I generally like those games too. I think they're fun. I think they're it's a lot of the same elements of tower defense, and then actually doing the wave itself. The major difference, I think, and maybe there's elements of this in Orcs Must Die that I haven't experienced, but the major difference here is the objective moves, and you kind of progress through the level rather than it being a totally kind of defense-like situation. And I do think that adds a very nice element to the game as well.
Yeah, it does give you like a reason to move and to like change your fortification strategies and stuff like that. So I agree. It is unique in that way. And I do very much like it. I just wonder if there's other games like this. Like, I don't know. There must be. Well,
I suspect that the season 2 weeks will last longer than 2 weeks. I don't know how much longer. I would love my goal in this game. And honestly, if we go back to like Gunfire Me Reborn, my goal in the roguelike is always to beat it at least once. Like I'm not the kind of guy. I was not a big like Hades beat it over and over and over again. I just didn't do that. But like I love being able to beat it at least once. Particularly, I mean, I think we're up to 10, maybe 15 runs total. And we haven't even gotten to level 4 yet. So like the progression getting through the different levels has been long. I mean, I think it's been appropriate, but it's been long. So like even being able to get to the end once and beat the game once, I think we'll unlock some story. It'll be fun. It'll be a big accomplishment, and we'll have that sense of, oh man, we haven't done it in a while. Well, I mean, it will be a sense of pride and accomplishment when we beat it. And I'm hoping that we at least get there. And then probably, I mean, personally, I know myself past that, I maybe do 1 or 2 more runs, and then I'm sure it'll die off quickly for me, but I don't know how close we are to that point. So we'll have to keep going for it.
Yeah, I will probably at that point, I guess, switch to single player mode because that will be all that's left for me. And that's okay. Like, I'm curious to see how this game is in single player. We were talking to somebody and he's like, oh yeah, it's nice to not have to manage a bunch of characters. I was like, oh, I guess I've never had that experience because we've always played online where each person plays one character. So looking forward to kind of seeing what that is kind of after the main game.
Hey, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna play WoW again?
I'm gonna play WoW again. I don't know about you.
Is this the cycle of a WoW player?
Yes.
That I am now a part of?
Welcome to the cycle.
Is this how it works?
Yes, this is how it works. This is exactly how it works. So to fill everybody in a little bit, this past weekend, or like as we're recording actually right now, BlizzCon is finishing up. I think it's the first in-person BlizzCon since 2019. I think that's what they said in the opening ceremonies. I've caught a few pieces of this, but I am very interested because they are going all out in the World of Warcraft realm. They have so much news and so much stuff that they are pre-announcing, which is always a risky business. But if anybody thinks that WoW is a dead game, which it very well might be, Blizzard hasn't caught on yet because they are going full steam ahead on making stuff for WoW.
I mean, it's not a dead game. It may be a dying game, but it's going to take a long time for 20 million subscribers to die out to be a dead game. You know, I don't know what they're at anymore. I don't know where they are, but you know, I mean, every single MMO player count is on the decline. So whatever, it's fine. But no, I mean, they clearly are showing that they are continuing to invest in the game, and I think that's great. I mean, I don't think WoW is going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, I think it's got at least a decade or two left. So I'm not surprised.
I can't believe. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. But when you say that, I'm like, oh, WoW is going to be a game that goes for 30 or 40 years. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's the MMO. Like I'm not surprised. Maybe we'll see. But we're not talking about 10 years in the future. We are talking about 6 years in the future, right?
Yeah, I think probably 5 to 6 years is about the right time horizon. For those that don't follow kind of the ins and outs of Blizzard, well, for one thing, I don't think we've mentioned it on the show, but Microsoft finally kind of closed their deal to buy Blizzard.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal that we just didn't talk about.
We completely, ignored it. But yeah, that finally happened. So, you know, WoW on Game Pass when, but also they had a bunch of shakeups in terms of people and personnel on the World of Warcraft team. And one of the biggest names in WoW was Chris Metzen, who was like the story guy, I think, for WoW back in the day, like in the original World of Warcraft. And within the last... Oh,
I see. Okay. So I just quick clarification, and maybe you don't know this and maybe we should look it up or someone's going to yell at us or whatever. I potentially have heard that he was the like Warcraft story guy. Like Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, and then into World of Warcraft? Is that I could be totally wrong, but I think that's maybe what I heard.
No, you got it. He started off and he was the guy that did the story and like the universes for Warcraft, Diablo, and StarCraft originally.
Dang. I mean, that's a guy right there.
Yeah, he is a guy. He was at Blizzard from 1993-ish until 2016. And then he's been there back again since 2022, I believe.
So he's taken over. Like I've heard this big news, like, oh, someone's coming back and he's like super important, and he's taken over like the story in World of Warcraft again. Is that what's happened?
Yeah, basically he is the executive creative director for all of the Warcraft universe. So he's the portfolio owner for Warcraft, basically.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's a big deal, and people seem very excited about it.
Yeah. So did you watch the like thing that he gave, like little keynote that he gave?
I did not.
Oh my gosh. He was living it up. He was so like hamming it up for the crowd and so invigorated, I could tell, by like standing there in front of all these people and like delivering his grand, you know, proposed creative thing for the next chapter of Warcraft. So he started off talking about how WoW is actually going to be 20 years old next year in 2024, which is crazy to think about. Like that's one of those like makes you feel old moments. But World of Warcraft is going to be 20 years old next year. And they just went ahead and kind of went for it and talked about how they have 3 new expansions in the works. And they went ahead and announced them all right now. which is, I think they've never done that before. So
I don't think they've ever done that before. No.
Yeah. So this is an MMO that's committing to not just to saying like Guild Wars does, where it's like, we're going to do something every year. They're saying like, we're not going to tell you a timetable, but we're going to tell you these 3 are the next names of the next 3 expansions that we've got coming up.
To be clear, expansions in World of Warcraft typically, historically, are every 2 years.
Yes. Correct.
So this is, and the first one of this trilogy, right, set of 3, doesn't come out until 2024. I don't know exactly when. We'll talk about it. I don't know. But so that's committing to, at least from my perspective, generally between 5 and 7 years, right? I mean, I assume that these expansions are going to be roughly 2 years because that's what they really like. That's what they've done. If that continues, that means they're committing at this point right now to 7 more years of development on this game.
Well, I was thinking about that too, and I was like, man, that's a big commitment to make. But also, if they've got, let's say, an average revenue of like $13 per month per person, right, times however many million players of WoW there are, they have the cash flow to do this, right? They should anyway.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it makes sense that
that's
they would.
That's why Microsoft paid, I don't know, what, almost $70 billion for this company?
It's so expensive. Yeah. So anyway, but they are making all this money, and it makes sense that they are, willing to commit to it, because you also want to make sure that people don't say like, oh, maybe Dragonflight was the last best good thing in World of Warcraft, and I should just ramp down and never play it again. They're saying no, we're committed, and we are working on, and we are going to deliver more content for this game. So don't think it's a dead game.
And that content, from what I understand, this trilogy is being called the World Soul Saga.
Yeah, say that 5 times fast.
That's a tough thing to say, but it is. From what I saw, I did watch the cinematic, which I don't know if it was just a cinematic. I mean, it kind of introduced the first conflict maybe on Something Is Wrong. And I want to say, as someone who doesn't play World of Warcraft a lot, it was a really, in my opinion, well done cinematic to start this saga. Because when you hear World Soul Saga, right, like you think, oh man, this is going to be another one of just like these almighty entities and beings that are so big and beyond understanding, and it's going to be this hugely complex story with like a bunch of things I don't know and recognize. That's what I feared when I heard the name. But then you watch the cinematic and they bring it down. There are 2 characters in the whole cinematic, and I'm not going to ruin it, but like they bring it down to a very personable level. And they make the conflict so relatable for something that is so grand. And I loved it. I loved that cinematic and what they did by taking this potentially massive story and making it personable. And that was just chef's kiss.
Yeah, I really liked that trailer as well. And I don't follow the lore closely in WoW at all, but like I'm generally familiar with the characters. I was just kind of like, those 2 characters, who are they? And they say the name of one of them, and the other one I'm like, I think this is this person, but I don't actually know. But we're not spoiling anything. You should go watch the cinematic. It was actually really good. And yeah, it was a really good kickoff, and I think that they did a really, really good job, of making you care and making you be like, oh, okay, I can get behind this. Like I want to see this cinematics play out. Now, what I kind of hope / wish is that they would put some of that stuff more frequently, like having played WoW recently, right? Thinking about how that experience was, you kind of get a cinematic at the end of every raid. And that's like, okay, fine, I guess. But it's hard to get that level of storytelling in an MMO. So I don't know. I kind of was like, I don't want to say anything that would dissuade you from considering playing WoW again. So I'm treading lightly here, but I was kind of like, ooh, I wonder how they're going to tell this story within the medium that they have, which is this game.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I hope they continue their effort to make, again, they have done it wrong in the past. And I don't think that this guy, I don't even remember his name, but he wasn't involved.
Chris Metzen.
Yeah, that guy. they have done it wrong in the past. And I think Shadowlands was a terrible expansion, but like the story itself was just so like high and like ephemeral about the gods and like what was going on and how things were and like how they interact. Like it just didn't matter at all to me at all. And Dragonflight was a little better. I cared a little bit more because there were like tribes and you were kind of involved with that, but then it got really grand again. And like they did a really good job of like establishing, and I think we talked about this in an episode a long time ago when we were still playing WoW, but they did a good job of establishing a good villain, and kind of the story around why that villain was bad and like whatnot. But I feel like even further, I really don't want to spoil the cinematic, so I won't say too much, but they've done it. They've taken it even a step further on top of that. And instead of just caring about a villain or like defeating the big bad, they have started this expansion by like really bringing it in again, just 2 characters in the cinematic. It's not the Battle for Azeroth cinematic, which is an excellent cinematic, but it's not that. It's something very different. And I really hope that they somehow continue the very intimate kind of story of maybe not those 2 people, but people involved in the grander story. The last thing I want to do right now is make a comparison to Guild Wars 2, but I'm going to do it anyway. Guild Wars 2 has sometimes done a very good job of taking the story of Elder Dragons. Now it went on too long and we can discuss the long saga of Elder Dragons, but they have done a good job in taking the grand story of the Elder Dragons and making it about recognizable, repeatable characters and their emotions as a part of that story. Which is what, I mean, it drives the story, right? It's how people feel about it and how the group is interacting with each other. And they kept it going, right? And that, I think that was it wasn't just one cutscene. It wasn't just one piece of it. It was kind of like how the group was interacting and how they felt and what happens when someone dies and all of that throughout the whole story. And I think World of Warcraft in this cinematic has set themselves up to do that well, and I hope they do it well.
You've already opened the box here of comparing to Guild Wars, so I will say the thing that I thought when I was watching Chris Metzen deliver his like sermon about these next 3 expansions. You really should just go watch it. It was really interesting to watch him kind of like wrap the crowd. Anyway, it doesn't matter. As I was watching this, he also mentioned like we're going to have faster content, like the content will come faster, or he said that, or maybe the woman that was speaking before him said that. But one of them said like, oh, we know that you like, faster content basically. And so we're going to work on that. And I actually was thinking to myself, like, I wonder if this is a response to Guild Wars being like, we're going to do an annual expansion cadence. Like, I would love that if they were like, or maybe like even an 18-month cadence where they're like, we're planning all this stuff out. It's going to come really fast. There's always going to be something fresh coming in WoW. And it's going to be, a reason to kind of get in there and play.
Well, I will tell you, and this is opening up a can of worms, because you said it in jest about 10 minutes ago, but you said, when is World of Warcraft coming to Game Pass?
Yeah.
There is something to be said about a more frequent content release and free-to-play games, right? Warframe goes through this, where they absolutely 100% see a rise in player count every time they release a story expansion, a story beat, right? A cinematic story, a cinematic quest. They see a doubling. I don't know, make up numbers, but they see a huge increase in player count when they do that, right? They're a free to play game though. You don't pay a subscription to play that game. Guild Wars 2 is the same way. The reason they went to this like annual release is because they see an increase in players when they release content, even though it costs money, right? They see an increase in players. If World of Warcraft goes to being a part of Game Pass, maybe there'll still be a subscription, but if it goes to a part of being part of Game Pass and becomes a driving reason to get Game Pass, you have to have that kind of, you have to work with the story and the release cadence to keep player engagement as a part of I'm not going to call it free to play, but it becomes much closer to a free to play game when it is part of that Game Pass bundle. And I wonder, to your point, is this their like shift in strategy to make that all work together? Because just because Microsoft just completed the acquisition does not mean they have not been working on this together since they announced that they were going to buy Blizzard.
Right. I mean, it's been, 18 months or something since they announced that they were going to try. At least. Like, they've known about this for a while.
So I can see that all working together some way to move World of Warcraft out of that 2-year release cycle, maybe not in response to Guild Wars, but coming to the same conclusion as Guild Wars and Warframe, and I'm sure there are others. Those are just the one I play. That, you know, the release cadence has to be there, particularly for, you know, free to play games, but even in a situation where there's a subscription, but, you know, it's kind of part of a bigger deal. Or maybe not. Maybe they just see people subscribe more often when they release content. That could also be true. I mean, I'm an example of this. We just talked about it. It's the cycle. It's the World of Warcraft cycle. So if they can release an expansion every 18 months instead of every 24 months, they're going to get people like me to come back more often.
Yep. Speaking of coming back more often, they also announced a whole bunch of gameplay features and quality of life improvements that I'm hoping will make it more fun to play for all the people that want to play. Whether or not that includes you, whatever. But I was happy to see some of the things that they were talking about in terms of like they had like a PowerPoint that just had like bulleted list of like stuff coming. And as the person that was announcing it was talking, the crowd was just going wild. One of the things that I wanted to mention right up the top is this thing they're calling war bands, which is essentially just the idea of account-wide progression for almost everything, reputation and all of that stuff. And I think that is an excellent change for people that like to have multiple characters in World of Warcraft.
Absolutely. I mean, people are going to hate me for saying this, but it makes the game more casual.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's exactly the direction they need to go in the world that we're in right now, and the way that the games are moving, right? The broader audience, more people playing them, you know, a wider net of people that play these games now, and call it more casual. I'm okay with that. I think that is absolutely the right decision, and is almost required nowadays for players to feel like their time is being respected.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because I was just watching, before we got on to record, I was watching Ian Hazakostas, the game director guy, and he was giving kind of a deep dive into some of the features that they had announced that we're sort of talking about now. And he said, like, in those words, he said, we want to be respectful of your time. Like, you know, the days and nights or whatever that you play WoW, like, we want you to feel like, you know, we're respecting your time and you're getting something out of it and all of that. So they are right on the idea of like, it's not just a grind for the sake of a grind, right? It's something that, you know, you only have a couple days a week or whatever that you want to play, a couple nights a week that you want to play. And we want to make sure that you can do that and accomplish what you want to accomplish. So I kind of see that in all of the new like quality of life announcements that they're talking about. And I think it's really interesting that you said that because that's what they said word for word.
Cool. I mean, that's how I feel, and I think that's how a lot of the industry feels. I mean, think about it. When World of Warcraft came out 20 years ago,
right,
the people that played it were gamers, right? They were gamers.
They were
like, that was
high school students and college students.
They were high school students and college students and people that were nerds and gamers, and all they did was play games, right? Because that was a very niche thing. It was, you know, the gaming industry has exploded in the last 20 years, and gaming has become mainstream, which means gamers is now like a thing you do rather than your identity, right? Like, and so many more people are gamers, right? So many more people are gaming. So when you do that, you have to broaden kind of the scope of how your game works and like how long it takes to do things and how casual the game is, because if someone that is not a gamer, right, like that isn't like that's my only hobby and that's all I do, which is okay. I mean, that's fine. Like I was like that for a long time, but like you don't have as many people like that. You have to go towards the people, like you said, that only play twice a week. And when someone that only plays twice a week learns that they have to reputation grind on every character, they're just like, nah, I'm out. I'm done. I'm like, they feel disrespected, right? They're like, what the heck? I don't want to do the same thing 5 times. I want to do it once, experience what it has to offer, like earn it. And then I never want to have to earn it again, because earning it again is not does not respect my time. It doesn't give me anything new except for that thing that I've already gotten on another character. So I love this. I think this is perfect. I think this is the direction all games are going in general. This is similar to how we could bring another game into this, right? Final Fantasy is very account based. Guild Wars 2 is very account based. Warframe is very account based. Like, I'm sure there are others. Again, those are the ones I know about, but World of Warcraft in this regard is following others in this. And I'm very, very happy as a casual gamer now, because I don't have enough time, right? I'm more into that casual gaming than maybe not quite as much as other people, but like from a World of Warcraft perspective, this was one of my largest complaints to you, because I wanted to experience other classes and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So I'm very happy to hear this. Please, like, you're speaking my language. What else are the quality of life and account bound improvements?
The other huge one that they're talking about is this thing that they're calling delves. And delves are like, think like Mythic Plus Dungeons, right? Mythic Plus Dungeons are 5-player content. You have to have 5 people get together all at the same time and do the same level of the same thing, right? But what if you don't have 4 other friends that are available at the same time that you're available, right? Then you're kind of stuck. You got to go to the dungeon finder. You got to find some people. You got to, deal with the randos. You got to, toxic personalities. I don't know, whatever, insert your personal boogeyman of Mythic Plus raids or Mythic Plus dungeons here. They have announced these things called delves, which are 1 to 5 player content in the open world.
Oh.
So you can solo these things, or you can do them with up to 4 other friends. So up to 5 people total. And they were talking about this in the deep dive, where it's going to be like, oh, there's like a shadow door or something. I don't know, like cloudy, like doorway or whatever. And you walk through that and there's no loading screen. And then you're in this instance content. And they're making it a like first class pillar of the end game kind of gear landscape.
It's an open world option for end game progression.
Yes, exactly. So if you think about, you have the vault, right? You get the vault with the disappointment vault, where you do your mythic dungeons or your raids or whatever. And it gives you one of like those 3 lanes where it was like raids and then dungeons and then PvP. And you had kind of 3 different levels in those. And then like, depending on how much content you did in the week, you got a choice of different equipment, that had different stats on it and whatever. So same deal, except that now instead of the PvP track on the bottom, they are putting this world content. They're calling it not just delves, but they're calling it world content. So it's either kind of these delves, which are like more group based, instanced out, but no loading screens. I don't really know how that works, but whatever. Or like, I guess world bosses or something, maybe. I don't know, maybe those count too. But it gives you kind of first class end game loot. So you can do that stuff without having to grind mythic keys or do raiding if you don't want to do that stuff. But you still want to kind of get eye level and kind of get up to, up to snuff so that you can go do raiding or whatever.
Casual,
exactly. But you can still get there, right? And I think that's the point here, is that this is a flexible way to play the game kind of on your terms, with the people that you want to play with. And, you don't have to get together 5 people that play. You can get together 3 people that play and still have a coherent, gameplay experience and do something that counts towards endgame.
That's great. I love that. I mean, it's again, it's the same thing that we've been talking about. Just the type of people that play games now and the type of audience that they have to start to cater to. And it fits right in. It's exactly, I think, what you and I kind of want to hear. I will still do Mythic Plus dungeons. You still want to do them.
Totally.
There's still content. I'm going to want to do raids. But now it gives you something to do when there aren't 5 people around. And I love that.
Yeah, it makes it less of a thing, right? Because it's flexible. It scales. Raids scale, right? They go from whatever it is, 8 people to 25 people. Or maybe 2 people. I don't know. They go all the way, right? They scale fully. So this is the same way. And they also said that delves will not be dependent on roles. So you don't have to have a healer, a tank, and a DPS.
It really is open world then. That's very cool.
It really is just bring whoever you've got and do this stuff. And they said the point of these things is that they're all going to have treasure at the end of them. But how you get there, maybe some of them will have a boss at the end. Maybe some of them will have puzzles or something that you have to do instead or whatever. But they're just like, it's content. You can do it with however many people you have, with whatever roles you have. Don't worry about it. And which we'll see if that actually holds true, that TBD. But what they're saying now is very friendly to the casual player and the casual groups of players.
Love that. I really do. I really do. Obviously that's not the entire market, right? I think you're always going to have your mythic raiders. And I hope, I really do. I'll say this. I really do hope they continue to make that content for the mythic raiders, right? That hard content that really drives the top of the levels. That's an important, group of people to continue to build content for. But I'm also very happy to see that they are kind of, in a way, I mean, they straight up are, building content for the opposite side of the spectrum, right? The people that want to play once or twice a week, that want to play with a group between 1 and 5, that don't want to stress about timers in mythic dungeons. I can't say enough nice things about the high level plans and what they're targeting.
Yeah, so we'll see how they accomplish it, but it is looking like a very good, like it feels like they get it, I guess, is maybe what I'll say about this to kind of summarize. Another quality of lifey thing that's just kind of nice is that they did announce that they're planning for the first expansion. They're planning to add cross server guilds, so you can have people in a guild that is crossing server boundaries, which has taken way too long, but they're finally getting there. And they said that like their whole goal with this is to make it so that you can play World of Warcraft with who you want to play, regardless of your server or your faction or your whatever. If you have friends that play this game, we want you to be able to play with them, because if you can't play with them, then you won't play the game, is what I added to the end of that. But
exactly. You play games to play with other people, particularly MMOs. We knew they were moving this direction. I mean, they were breaking down the Horde and Alliance walls while we were playing, and they continue on this journey. I understand why it's hard. It's a 20-year-old game. I'm sure some of these parts of the code base are hard coded to keep these things separate. And the whole like being able to queue for a dungeon with the opposite faction was something they couldn't do, right? Like, and now, they're continuing to break down these walls. We knew they were moving this direction. I'm surprised to see cross server guilds. I guess maybe not entirely surprised, but it makes sense. It's just another wall to break down, and they want to break down every wall that's possible to prevents you from playing with people that you want to play with. I don't know how guilds prevented that too much. Guilds really had become just kind of community organizing kind of things. But them being server specific didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm glad they're doing it. But at the same time, like, it didn't prevent you from playing with anyone. I think the queues for dungeons and not being able to queue with the opposite faction are a bigger one. But I'm sure that's coming as well. I'm interested to see how far they take this. Because don't guilds have guild banks?
Yes. Yeah. I was about to say that the economy is probably the only limiting factor to this.
Yeah. And I really wonder if they, honestly, I wonder if they ever tried to tackle that. Again, I'm going to bring it up again. Guild Wars 2 has kind of said that they don't like the whole world, like, server structure thing, particularly for World v World. And they have come out and said, we're trying to dismantle this. we understand that it's going to lose us revenue because people pay for world transfers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that World of Warcraft and Blizzard would be willing to say the same. And you know, that aside, are they going to want to tackle the economy element of it and truly tear down servers altogether? I would love that. I mean, that would be amazing. But I don't think they're going to go there.
I don't think they're going to go there just because technically they don't need to. If they make cross server guilds, it's not going to matter. Because you already have cross server raids and cross server dungeons and cross server everything else.
Sure, but there's a guild bank, and I wonder how they manage that when someone can put something in on one side and take it out on the other and transfer gold back and forth. And
yeah, but I mean, I just got to imagine that you just accept, because you can do the same thing with a character transfer. I mean, you got to pay money to do it, but like you can bring a character with 2 million gold from one server to another if you want to. That stuff comes with you. So it's kind of just a larger scale of that. And I wonder if they just say, okay, the trading post is worldwide now, right? The trading post is just a global trading post and the prices of things are going to harmonize, and that's just how it's going to be, because everybody has the same chance to go out in the open world and get money, right? And do activities that get you gold. So you could just see this as a way to say, yeah, there's not really server specific economies anymore. It's all just kind of one global economy.
Yeah, it would really hurt the economies that have had less inflation. That would hurt a lot for a little bit. But it would balance. You're right. It would balance pretty quickly.
Something invisible hand.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it would be a very cool, like almost simulation or study in the globalization of economies. Right. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing, is connecting disconnected economies. So that would be very interesting. And I suspect it would, people would make a fuss about it, but I think it would settle within 3 months.
Yeah, people would. I mean, everybody's angry about everything always on the internet, but it would be fine. In the end, I think it would be okay. And I think it would just solve this problem, right? Yeah, fine. You can have a guild bank, you can move stuff through the guild bank, deal with it. Sorry. And then it just solves itself within one expansion cycle.
Yeah. Cool. I love it.
So those are the major like quality of life things that I know of. The other thing that I saw in the trailer that went by is it looks like they're going to do the like dragon riding flying stuff, like the flying control from dragon riding for all flying mounts coming up in the new expansion. So that's cool, I guess. Looking forward to that. Hoping that it means more flying challenges throughout the rest of the world and not just in the Dragon Isles.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah,
because like that would open up some nice like open world, just kind of chill content. Like that'd be nice.
Yeah. And it would give a reason to go back to all those places, which, I mean, you know, you made all this content. You might as well give reasons to go there.
Right. Exactly. So all in all, you know, maybe it's just the hype train that's going on here, but like things feel like they're looking bright-ish for World of Warcraft. I don't know. I'm kind of excited.
I am very excited. I am mostly convinced to buy the expansion and to go back and play for a little bit. I enjoyed it when we were there. I don't have anything bad to say about World of Warcraft. Obviously, it's a successful game. It's been around for 20 years. I finally found a way to enjoy it and play what I kind of liked to play. And I did want to expand that. And, you know, maybe the next expansion is another opportunity to do that. I'm not in any rush. I know of people that are like, oh my gosh, they announced all this cool stuff and it makes me want to play World of Warcraft right now. I don't feel that. I don't know if you feel that. And it's not the subscription element to it. It's just that I don't feel the need to jump in right now, particularly where I feel like I would be jumping in the middle and be behind, not so much from a gear sense, but like you just have to catch up on story, and coming in at a fresh story arc is really appealing to me, right? Coming in when everyone's kind of learning about the story at the same time. That's more appealing to me. So I'm excited, but I'm ready to wait until the next expansion comes out.
You mentioned starting on a new story arc. I will just point out that the final story arc of the Dragonflight like expansion saga does come out this coming Tuesday with a new raid wing and fresh story. So that is happening now. This is not a sales pitch, but it is just a note that like there is actually a clean break that's happening right now.
That's not an arc. That's the third leg of an existing arc.
Oh, well, okay, fine.
There's a difference.
Okay.
I will say I have one complaint about this and everything that has been announced. Can you guess it?
I can't think of anything like game specific that you're complaining about, so I'm guessing it has to do with names and words and things.
Yes. The expansion that's coming out in 2024, I think November 2024, right?
Ish. They haven't announced. It's sometime in 24.
Okay, so we suspect November 2024. The name of the first expansion of the World Soul Saga is The War Within. Do you know why I have a problem with that name?
Wasn't that the name of something already?
Yes. Do you know where and what? I'd be super impressed.
I do not know. No. It just sounds very familiar.
It is a major, huge, like enormous, amazing cinematic quest in Warframe.
Oh, okay.
It's like a major, almost expansion cinematic quest piece of the Warframe story. And they have gone and just taken it. And I hate that, because when you searched The War Within 5 days ago, you got Warframe. And now when you search The War Within on Google, you get Blizzard and World of Warcraft. And I am just upset about that. Like, I mean, whatever. It doesn't truly matter. But The War Within was a thing about Warframe. It just used to be a Warframe thing, and I'm just upset that they've kind of usurped the name, and I'm sad about that. But it's a great name. It means a lot of different, it in this case, it means something very specific. Again, go watch I think I understand what it means, and it kind of points to that in the cinematic. Go watch the cinematic. It means something very different in Warframe. Obviously, it's pointing to something different. Even like just taking the lore out of it, they mean different things. But it was a Warframe expansion and quest line, and now it is a World of Warcraft expansion and quest line. And that just it just makes me sad.
It's also apparently the name of 2 different movies that came out in the last 25 years. So it's not that unique.
Maybe they'll be forced to change it.
I doubt it. I'm sorry that they stole your name, but I'm sure they already have the trademarks.
It's okay. It's okay. You know what it does, Chris, and you're just going to have to be ready for this. When it comes out and we play it, it gives me the right to talk about Warframe whenever I want.
It does. You can make comparisons between The War Within and The War Within. Yes, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. So
looking forward to that, I guess.
I didn't watch anything else for BlizzCon. Did you?
I did not watch much. I watched a little bit because I was watching that keynote where they talked about a couple other games. They talked about Warcraft Rumble, which is the new mobile game that just came out just this week. It's an interesting little weird tower defense kind of it's like a combination tower defense and unit sending game. So I don't know if you ever played the old Warcraft 3 mods and stuff of the
Oh, okay. It's not like an auto chess. It's something different.
It's not an auto chess. No, it's like you have a couple of buildings. I don't know if you can build more buildings, but you choose units to send down lanes kind of, and then they fight the enemy units coming down lanes, and you have to basically it's almost like playing the creep side of a MOBA.
That's what I was going to say.
I've gotten kind of early. I don't know. I played 2 rounds of it. It was kind of fun. It was kind of weird. Strangely low frame rate, but anyway, it's a phone game. So if that's your thing, that's an option. And then they also talked about some big Hearthstone thing that they're doing, which I really didn't pay much attention to. And then they talked about WoW Classic, which we don't play. They are doing WoW Classic for Cataclysm, which was the first WoW expansion that I ever played. So there's a little nostalgia factor for me, but I don't think I'm going to go back to it. And then they talked about some other WoW Classic thing that they're doing where they're doing some weird class mismatch, pick warlock tanks or something. I don't know. That was the catchphrase that they mentioned. Something about you get to level 20 or something, and then they let you pick draft abilities or something. It's very strange. I don't know. If you're a WoW Classic person, it looks like an interesting option. So
that WoW Classic stuff comes out soon, right? In 3 weeks.
Yes, that particular the WoW Classic mix and match thing is coming out in 3 weeks. I might give it a try because I still have a couple of months of my WoW time, I think, still. So I might just hop in and see what it is, just to see what it is, but I'm not expecting to play it much.
I have a feeling I know some people that may play with you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I can find a group of people that's getting started with it, I might just hop in just to try it with no expectation of playing it more than a week. But, you never know. Give it a try. And then they also announced some stuff for Overwatch. They have a new hero for Overwatch, which is just weird. It's kind of like Maui from Moana, except it's a different person, and it's called Mauga, and that's a strange choice.
I didn't realize Overwatch was still a game, so that's news to me.
Yeah, it is. We had a friend that was trying to convince us to play it again. He's like, oh, I was watching some people play Overwatch and I didn't recognize some of the abilities and I didn't know any of the maps anymore. So maybe it's time to go back to it. And he got shot down immediately. Everybody was like, absolutely not. Yeah, so Overwatch 2 is still a game, still a thing that they have in their lineup. That's all I saw. Yeah, I didn't get anything from Diablo. They announced an expansion for Diablo, but I don't know what any of the details were because I don't play that game.
Yeah, fair. Hey, you watched more than I did. And I watched the cinematic trailer for the World of Warcraft expansion. That was it. That was my BlizzCon experience. So, let us know what you saw, what you missed, what we missed, what I should be excited about. Let me know if you think I should come back to WoW earlier than the expansion, because I will come back for the expansion. And if you want to play some WoW Classic with Chris, you can hit us up. You can join our Discord by going to discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to find links to stuff we spoke about, read our show notes, or find any of our older episodes, you can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you're enjoying the show, we would love if you could share it with some others that might enjoy it as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Jason, capitalism season is upon us. Black Friday is coming just around the corner.
I love the name. I love that. I've never heard that before.
Capitalism season?
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
'Tis the season.
Wait, I didn't hear anything else you said. You said capitalism season, and I latched onto that.
Yes, capitalism season is upon us. Black Friday is coming, and that means that things will be on sale. And I happen to be in the market for a particular piece of gaming hardware at the moment that I think you might be as well.
Yeah. I have also been looking, not very hard, but I am in the market for a new gaming headset.
Me too.
I think we're looking for different things, but we are both looking for a gaming headset.
Yes, that is true. I tend to prefer the wireless variety of gaming headsets. I've had a wireless headset for, a decade now, and I'm not sure that I can go back to wired.
Yeah, and what are you currently running?
I currently have a Corsair Void Pro wireless, which I got, on super sale a few years ago. Like I've had it for, 3-4 years now.
Okay.
And it's been pretty good.
I have a Astro A40 TR with mix amp. And I have, this is my third Astro A40. I love them. I beat the heck out of them. I am not gentle with my headsets, and they stand up. They stand up. I think at this point, the reason I'm looking for something new, the microphone's kind of starting to go. It is replaceable. Like I can unplug the microphone and plug it back in, but I think this headset's probably 4 years old now, maybe 5. So it's time for a new one for me. The earmuffs kind of start to go. I know I can replace them. The top head resting, the whole thing just starts to get a little loose, and the comfort starts to degrade a little bit. That's why I'm looking. The sound is still good. I think, I'm still happy with all of that. I really do like Astros because you can buy individual replacement parts. So the cord, the audio cable from the mix amp to the headset has a really nice kind of switch on it. And you can buy that cord for $10 on Astro's website. So I really like that. I'm probably in the market for another Astro headset. I'll probably get the latest Astro A40. They do this thing like Cars where they release a new one every year. So I'll probably just get the newest one, and be at that. But as I do every time I buy a new headset, I will do the research and probably just end up on the same.
Yeah. I bounce around. I used to be all in on the Logitech stuff, and I had 2 different Logitech wireless headsets. And then the second one started to flake out in a really kind of obvious way. And then I switched over to this Corsair one, which I do really like. And I actually replaced the ear, as you called them, the ear muffs, the pads, right? I replaced those last week because I had bought replacements like forever ago, and I was like, finally, when the other ones break, I'm going to replace these. When the other ones break, I'm going to replace these. And finally, the other ones didn't break, but they kind of got bad enough that I was like, all right, I guess it's time to replace these. And because the like microphone on mine, like occasionally it doesn't work. Like I have to, it's one of those ones where you can like swing the microphone up to mute it. And I sometimes will do that and like it won't unmute, or it won't, it always mutes, but sometimes it doesn't unmute. And so I don't realize it until I have to like toggle it up and down and all that. And I don't particularly like that experience, but I really do value having something where I have a very tactile way to know when the microphone is not listening to me. You know what I mean? Because I can walk around my house with it and whatever. So that is something that's kind of important to me. I did just see somebody today was talking about the SteelSeries Arctis Nova as a potential option. And he had mentioned that it works with the like PlayStation 5 spatial audio, which I'm kind of curious about. Like, I don't play that often with headphones on the PlayStation, but like when I do play the PlayStation, sometimes it's with headphones. And it would be kind of cool to be able to use the same gaming headset for both. So they have a wireless headset that has something that's kind of like a mix amp. And I've always I like those little tactile, things that can adjust stuff. So I'm kind of interested in that just to see how it goes.
Well, I mean, you're right. It's the perfect time. And if you have something targeted, it's pretty easy to put some alerts on it and get some deals. Hopefully yours goes on sale this season, this capitalist season, capitalism season. And I'm hoping mine does too. I'll probably just throw mine on a Christmas list and hope someone gets it. Cause I don't need a new one, but it would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I may do something similar. So it's 'tis the season.
Oh boy. I was about to end, but you said that. And, have you started to listen to Christmas music yet?
No, I have not listened to any Christmas music yet, even though we are into November now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Me neither. No, definitely not me. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.